Yo, what's good? Today we're going to be talking about 2x KO Illaoi. So I've been pretty much playing only this character. I've already competed with her, maybe top 10% of some of the bigger online brackets. Evo finalists, Evo champions, etc. I have played versus them all at this point with this character. So I feel pretty good to talk about her. I feel pretty qualified on kind of what she has to offer. And if you don't know me, I'm known mostly in the Guilty Gear community as a Gold Blues player. And I figured I would kind of see what Illaoi has been cooking. So with that being said, let's get right into this kind of comprehensive guide and review of the character in her alpha iteration. So first I'll just kind of talk about what she does, because I know that most people who have been in the alpha have labbed every character, but Illaoi seems to be the one that falls short of it the most, so I think a lot of people don't actually understand what she does. So I'll try to keep this brief, right? Her whole gimmick as a character is that she spawns tentacles with her S2 specials, and she activates them with her S1 specials, right? And so kind of the idea with Illaoi is to cover your tentacle spawns, which are all negative, with assists, and then from there you pressure using your S1 specials, which are all going to activate the tentacles one way or another and give you some plus frames. Or, you know, she's got a command grab for one of them, and she can even just make the tentacle slap you from anywhere. It's charge okay as well. It's pretty good. But yeah, aside from that, that's kind of all she really does. She doesn't have any super unique movement options. She doesn't have any super unique buttons, and she's really sort of a feast or famine type character because she wants to get in and she wants to have a tentacle down when she's in. So let's talk a little bit more about the specials in detail, just so we can refer to them again in the future. I'll try to make this as fast as possible. For the specials that spawn her tentacles, her main block string ender is just going to be S2, because this is nice and safe, -6, spaces you out, spawns a tentacle, and, you know, just kind of a nice forward advancing lariat as well. It's also her assist. Her down S2, this is -16. Very punishable. You have to be careful with this, but it's a low. So this is her kind of way of calling out retreating guard. This is what she does. And on top of that, she also has an overhead special that spawns a tentacle as well. This one's safe on block, uncharged. Charged, you are plus, which is very, very strong with this, because she gets strike throw off of it. And one other aspect of her tentacles, if you have one on screen, when she throws you, is teleporting, and she gets a full combo off of it. Very strong indeed. Now in terms of how she activates her tentacles, she's got her neutral S1. This is kind of a big FU neutral option, that if there's a tentacle nearby, it'll vacuum the opponent in and make you very, very plus. This is what makes her strong, especially with 2x assist and freestyle. So one thing that this is useful for example, in the corner, because of that vacuum effect, look at that. You might not be able to tell right there, but I pulled him away from the corner just enough to be able to steal it, and that enables some very dirty mix-ups with certain characters. And, you know, that's one reason why S1 is quite a good option for activating tentacles. But be wary, because on its own, and this is going to be a theme with all the S1 specials except Rekka, it's not a good option. It's -23. That is very punishable with, and any character has a super that can punish that on block from anywhere. And most characters can kind of run up and punish you anyway with it, which is quite scary indeed. Now on top of having her 2H, she also has an anti-air special down S1. This is disjointed, and it also activates tentacles. Full combo on hit, teleports to the opponent from anywhere on screen, on block or hit as well. Leaves you very plus and allows you to get a nice conversion off of it. Definitely a really, really strong tool that helps compensate for the fact that her 2H is among the weaker ones. And like I said, we already mentioned this, but she can manually activate the tentacle with back S1 to swing. Charge okay, so this increases kind of the size of the hitbox. Vacuum effect, plus frames, etc. Quite good, but they can kill the tentacle while you're charging this, and then that kind of just does nothing. And yeah, she's also got the command grab, but they have to be like right on top of the tentacle for that to work. So that's kind of all the ways she can summon and activate tentacles. Now she also has her JS2, which is going to be an important tool. This summons a tentacle as well, very punishable though, as you can see. However, it's really more of a combo ender to give you tentacles, which is a really nice tool. It sort of lets you end with a tentacle wherever you are on screen, which is great. Another way she can activate tentacles is with her JS1. This is important for her combo routing. It kind of stalls her air momentum as well, as you can see. But it teleports the tentacle to the opponent as well, similar to the down S1, and lets you get a combo or pressure wherever you are, which is nice. It's very nice, actually. Now lastly, her real core special outside the tentacle game is going to be this Rekka. This is forward S1. You can see the first hit, 15 frame startup, large hitbox, nice with dash momentum as well. and 0 on block, so a very safe special to be throwing out. It destroys projectiles. It gives a full combo, like huge stagger on counter hit, and is one-hit confirmable as well. So kind of her predominant neutral tool is this. Mostly because her other buttons, like her normals and her other specials, they're just not useful in neutral, or they're very, very risky like that and like that, as I already showed a little bit ago. So I guess while we're on that topic, let's talk general strategy and neutral with Illaoi. I'll start with neutral. So first of all, right, you don't want Illaoi on point. This character is much stronger suited as an assist character, both because as an assist, she can both summon and activate a tentacle if you're using freestyle or 2x, which is kind of her strongest pressure options. Or even without those, she can be tagged into and then use the tentacle. And that skips the part of her having to win neutral and get a hit and then go in with a tentacle in. Because even on block, right, her solo pressure, she's pretty much always negative. She's not going to be able to enforce her tentacle offense very well unless you're threatening like this plus very reactable overhead that, by the way, even though has 26 frame startup, so we say there, it has a lot of travel time as well. So I find that like this is not actually hitting on frame 26. It's a lot later, and so it's quite easy to react and parry even if it's not on your mental stack, right? So this is going to be kind of not an amazing way to get the party started going on in the future if you're solo Illaoi. Now for those reasons, you really want to commit to more of a defensive plan in neutral. You need to make your way in because she is a majorly offense-oriented character. But when you're trying to get in, you're not trying to fight button to button with other characters. You're not swinging these very high duration, easily with punished moves. You know, instead you're kind of trying to stay safe with your bigger buttons that are confirmable, that give you something that you can scrap with other characters using. However, that really restricts her options, especially in part due to the fact that she is quite a slow character indeed. Her strongest tools in neutral are pretty much just this Rekka. She has a nice disjointed JH that's chargeable, very plus, and quite hard to anti-air at some angles, like that, as you can see, and still leaves you very plus regardless. And of course she has this dive kick that has this nasty cross-up hitbox. But if you do find yourself in neutral with her, and you don't have assists, you're kinda SOL. All you can do is try to make your way in and hope they forget your Illaoi, and that all you can do is threaten this Rekka and JH. Because if they kind of come toward you, you do have some better options, right? This 2H, although it has kind of a middling hitbox, I find that, and I don't know exactly how this works to be fair, so asterisk here, the frame data seems really good on it in terms of like when the invuln activates, how fast it activates, and kind of how late you can react with this, if they're actually in range to be hit. Now the hitbox is an issue. It hits straight up. It's one of the weaker ones for anti-air angles, but yeah, she also has this, and that fully gets her turn started. And one more thing about down S1, right? Even without a tentacle, if this hits the opponent in the air, they're put into a tumble state. They can't tech, which means that you really don't need to confirm your anti-airs at all with this. It's just something, you're like, oh, they're in the air, I throw this out. It's pretty much how it works, and that's a nice tool to have. But yeah, the general strategy is once you're in with her, right, on block, ideally you can kind of make your way in on block without having to commit your assist, but it is quite difficult, which is why she wants to be in the assist position. The idea is that you use your assist to cover your tentacle calls, right? And then from there, you get the party started and you threaten your strike throw, which again, you know, will teleport the tentacle to you from anywhere and allow you to get a combo. That's kind of the idea with her offense, right? Is to cover your tentacle summons, which are negative with assist, and then activate the tentacle with Illaoi. Then you can choose to tag in with your opponent and use the plus frames or advantage that it gets from that situation, or just threaten the strike throw situation afterward. And she does have this plus 5L, which also auto spaces her for throw. You don't need to dash at all afterward, which is great. It'll beat anything except 5 frame normals mash on reversal, which is good. Very good. And once she's actually in, right, her damage is very, very solid, and every Oki situation that she puts you in is always going to end up having a tentacle next to you, and that is particularly scary in the corner where you can get the party started. Because once she has the tentacle down, right, she has way more options. She has that command grab there, especially when you can't move in the corner. She's got this really nice property of having a, you know, tight input on the Rekka series. The second hit of Rekka activates tentacle. But if you do it right, you get plus 41, right? And guess what has faster startup than that? This charge overhead that is also plus, that leaves you plus 6 in their face, which means 5L and strike throw. Full combo on grab. And you're back in the same situation again. And that's not even getting into the strongest feast part of her feast or famine aspect, which is her S2 super. Once you're in the corner, this is how you really take over games with Illaoi, and especially once you're tagged in and you get the chance to end your combo with a tentacle and spawning this. Yeah, the opponent is in for quite a bad day. And even if you don't get an opening with that super, look what you get. Another tentacle at the end of it, which is just wonderful. It allows you to keep up very long and dangerous pressure sequences where the opponent has to be mindful of strike throw the whole time. So you can see that she's quite threatening when she's in. So now let's talk about combos. If you're new, right, and you're just picking up 2x KO, kind of the universal route in this game is just into launcher. And that's not going to give you much damage, but it is going to spawn a tentacle. Or you can just kind of keep the pressure going from there. And because you have a tentacle, even though it's not close enough to interact with a lot of your specials, you are, always threatening the strike throw as long as you have a tentacle spawn down. And that is something that's very, very good with her and important for, pushing the momentum. Now, beyond that, there is really just one major B&B mid-screen that is important to know with her, but it's a little bit tricky. So let me show it. That's kind of the easier version of the B&B, but you'll find that it's still pretty tricky. The way it works is you do your normals, and then you string into S2, then you micro dash, and you activate it with back S1. Then half charge 6 S2, and then kind of the idea of her general combo structures, as long as you have tentacles down and the opponent is launched, you want to use them up by doing JM JS1 before you end your combo. So I find a lot of people struggle with this B&B. And it's also quite spacing dependent and timing dependent as well as for like when exactly you get the charge. I think if you get like the exact frame of the half charge, it's really consistent. I'm almost sure that you can do it from pretty much any spacing at that point, but in reality people are not just going to be that precise. So you do have to be aware that if you're a little further from the opponent like that, one thing you can do, for example, this S1 activates pretty much full screen and still gives you a close knockdown and okay damage. It's sort of the best option that you have. So yeah, if you're too far when you start, you're going to have problems getting conversions with her, which is kind of annoying because she doesn't really have like a nice special that she can do when spaced. Like Braum can also run into this problem when he can't combo into his 2H, right? But what he can do is he can just go into his S2 anyway and get his situation started. Illaoi, not so much. This is a problem with her. If you're spaced out on her conversions, she really doesn't have any way to get Oki with a tentacle from there, which can be pretty annoying, right? Which means she's a little, again, assist reliant, not only in neutral, but she can be in combos as well. She does have her Rekka though, of course, even if you're spaced. Old reliable, gonna give you a hard knockdown. But again, no tentacle Oki, which is a downside of her conversions, for sure. So that's kind of how you optimize the route that I did show a little bit ago. If you have the spacing and the timing, you can combo into JH1 and then JS1. And from there you can pick up with a 5H into 3H or 2H, or just 2H or 3H to get a little bit more damage out of the B&B. It's spacing dependent though, so you kind of have to be aware of it and get a feel for it. So I'm not going to overcomplicate things, right? Let's just show 2 corner combos. Pretty much all that I do, right? One if you don't have a tentacle, one if you do. Let me show if you don't have a tentacle. And there you have it. So the tricky thing about this combo is that right here, when you run up to catch with your 5M, you want to delay it so that the Yasuo is low to the ground, right? And you also can quite delay the hit of that 2H after the hit of 5H. That's going to make that a little more consistent. And also, you can kind of adjust the timing by charging the 4S1. You don't have to charge it to get the combo. Sometimes you need to, based on where the Yasuo or whoever you're hitting will be in the air after the 2H, right? After the 2H, you get the half charge, 6S2. The timing on that is pretty much not strict at all. Just don't fully charge it and it'll work. And if you want like a more consistent route, just do JM-JS1 and then JM-JS2. You don't have to go for that 2H or 3H or whatever extension at the end, even though it is more damage. That one can be quite space independent, and sometimes there's this very annoying drop where the second hit of JS2 won't combo, and then you'll be punishable. Yeah, that really sucks when it happens. So if you want to be more consistent, just don't do the extensions. So now if you have a tentacle, right? Do not delay this Rekka. Micro walk here, and then no more delays after this. Very simple. That's our with tentacle route, which is quite nice, right? And again, like I said, I don't want to overcomplicate it. There's other things that you can do, you know. There's just frame Rekka sequences. There's stuff like that, but there's really no point getting into the minds with all that right now. The idea is just how do you play Illaoi? These are the combos you need, and that are quite optimal as well. I'll also show her a throw combo. That's pretty much the same as in corner and mid-screen. Whenever you get a throw with the tentacle, same kind of idea. Just half charge that 6S2 and get your route going. And similarly, if you're sweaty, you can go for some extensions using your H normals for a little bit extra damage as well. Same idea for command grab. Although this one can be a little more scaled, so I recommend just kind of skipping the H normal optimization here. Kind of long term. That's more what we would be doing though. And like I said, corner as well as mid-screen. Here it can be a little bit easier to get that extension using the 2H, so that's kind of food for thought. She can also combo the first 2 hits of her Rekka into her level 2 super, which is pretty solid and good for being burst safe as well. Like if you get a hit and you don't want to like hard commit to burst baiting with a jump and like dropping your combo, you just threaten with super instead and canceling. However, if you want to, you know, do level 2, it's only off the first 2 hits of Rekka. If you do it off the third, it won't combo. But you can do her S1 super. And it's not a whole lot less damage, so that's something to consider. So yeah, let's just review the general idea with her combos. The idea is spawn a tentacle, micro dash, half charge S2, and then link these JS1s until you run out of tentacles, and then end with JS2. I recommend using JM for all of those. And again, you can optimize with 5H, 3H, and you know, first hit of JH into JS1, etc., depending on the spacing and your confidence. If you're further when you want to start your combo and you have no tentacle, pretty much only option is going to be comboing into Rekka. Oh yeah, and if she has a tentacle already mid-screen when you're doing this BNB, just expire the tentacles by linking this over and over until you run out. Also gives her some very nice corner carry, by the way, as you can see. Now let me talk setups with this character. So I have been cooking quite a bit, and you know, there's plenty of stuff around on Twitter and whatnot, but I myself have invented a few setups that I figured I'd show here that seem to be getting me some success. So let's talk a little bit about that and offensive sequencing with her. The star of the show is this situation. You can see that you're, you know, up to plus like 30 something here, plus 31 typically. So that's like one example of kind of something really disgusting that you can do with this character once you actually get them in the corner and get your sequences started. And if you did a full combo before that, right, that's a 2-touch sequence. They're going to die between that and the combo, right? So yeah, you can see pretty strong high-low mix-ups off of this that can be very, very hard to deal with. And again, at the end of that super, you're left with a tentacle, which means plus frames and strike throw time. So yeah, you get that tentacle super off in the corner, the opponent has to make some really, really unfavorable guesses. That situation is a little bit weak to push block, which is quite annoying, I have to say. But they really do have to guess on that initial mix-up. And so it's very, very safe to get up attack as well on that kind of thing. So it's just overall very strong. Her S2 super is where she really shines, especially if she's tag launched into it in the corner. That's kind of her winning strategy in most of these rounds. Now, another setup that I like to do with her off of her mid-screen throw, micro walk back, and then you can threaten this dash cross up J2H. This does meaty, in fact, I've tested this. And if you don't dash, you can just meaty with JH on the same side. Seems pretty good, I think. Pretty good indeed, and that will safe jump supers as well, if you do it correctly, right? Oh, and something else about her meterless throw, and I'm not sure if this is a bug or not. You can actually combo off of it using assists, because her throw into her JS2 actually, like, gives her insane frame advantage, and you can even combo off that little pop-up, so let me show that. Yeah, so I'm not really sure what that's about. I don't know if that's intended, but yeah, you can do this with Braum, with Ari, and I'm not sure, obviously with Darius as you just saw, and I'm not positive about others, but I don't actually think that you need an assist to OTGs, because I think they're actually like, because this is a combo, right? I think they're actually just getting launched for like a second there. So yeah, I don't know if it's supposed to work that way, but assuming it's not supposed to work that way, here's another setup we can go for in the corner. OTG success too, and that's a proper OTG. It's definitely supposed to work that way. The plus 10, 5M is 11. 1 frame gap. That is a nice meaty setup, and I happen to get a lot of people using that. So anyway, just to add more context to the throws. And this is another nice setup that I like to do in the corner. This will also safe jump supers and DPs. Let me just show it actually. The wind. You can see that I was able to block, and I can punish there and kind of get my game-winning snowball off. So that is a safe jump. You can't safe jump get up attacks, so just bear that in mind. But that's a setup that I like. Another reason why I like that is because we'll just have him block here. If they block this and you 5L, you're still in range for tick throw actually, without even needing to move at all or dash up. So that's kind of a guess between that and, oh my god, I'm in the malevolent kitchen, and you know, like delay lows and that sort of thing, which of course retreating guard is not an option in the corner. She can cancel the second hit of her JH basically on block by doing 2H and then going into a low immediately, like 2L. Like that. I don't know if this is that good, but it's an option that I've seen. I need to experiment with this more, but you know, food for thought. In terms of other setups, right? Mid-screen I also find, and he's set to 5L by the way, so that did meaty. I also find that you can kind of go for a similar left-right, like off of throw. You can also meaty with the tentacle, and that is safe to get up attack, which is pretty nice. And that'll suck them in, and you get a nice combo on counter hit. But the timing on the charge, so they can't actually kill the tentacle, is a little bit strict. But, you know, nice setup to have. Another setup, and this is pure cheese, I have to say, but it works all the time. Our level 1 super, if you hold it, teleports the tentacle to them. And you can meaty, well, you know, 5-frame throw protection, so they can always mash on it. But aside from that, you can you can sort of pseudo meaty with command grab there, which is so cheeky. The amount of people that fall for that is actually insane to me. And you can meaty with the tentacle as well. The tentacle counter hits, big bombo happening there. So that's kind of nice off to level 1. So yeah, Just Frame Rekka is really epic. And if you want some tips on how to time this, by the way, I kind of do it visually. I try to react as soon as the idol goes behind her head after the first swing. And I find that is pretty consistent. But you kind of got to do it as fast as possible when you're really looking for it. The faster you are when it starts going behind her head, the more likely you are to get the timing. And so that's kind of nice. Also, I suspect because I've gotten this plus 40, 41, and 42, it's a 3-frame window for the just frame, quote unquote. I guess it's not actually a just frame. But yeah, this is very, very strong in pressure if you can manage to do it. The only issue is mid-screen. You know, if you want to set this up, right? You have him not block here. You kind of need to sandwich them. And you get some really cool conversions that push you pretty far that I like with it. But, you know, pretty cool stuff. Just thought I'd mention the Just Frame Rekka, and there's some nasty offensive sequencing you can do with it as well. So in terms of good characters to pick with Illaoi, Her best team absolutely is Ari Illaoi, but that's because of bug abuse. That is actually a genuine top tier team with this character. Like, that team is broken, but it is literally broken, as in it's a bug that causes that team to be so strong. So that's going to get nerfed. Outside of that, I think her strongest synergies are with Darius. We'll start with him. For obvious reasons, you know, he can apply bleed, and then she can get in there with the tentacles, and the chip damage really adds up, you know. Even a really simple sequence like this, look how much chip damage that did already. And that's not even getting into like the DHC super, right? Because Illaoi can set this up, and then that's some nasty chip damage as well. That's actually a disgusting amount of chip damage. And it's a little resource intensive, and it's best in the corner, but that's also obviously strong. Also, Darius Assist can help out with some of her combo awkwardness if she's more spaced. So where you might not normally really be able to get a combo, she maybe can there, you know, which is kind of nice. So this is also a pretty strong team, Yasuo Illaoi. So that's kind of the idea with this team. Like I was saying earlier, you can suck them out of the corner using the S1 tentacle activation, and then get this nasty cross up with Yasuo. And then also setting up sandwiches with Yasuo Illaoi is really nasty for the same reason. You can like really mix up where your stance S2 is going to go, like on what side it's going to go using that. So, you know, that's pretty good. And also Yasuo just has a lot of freedom in his combo conversions, so it's not hard for him to take you to the corner and tag launch into Illaoi. So that works pretty well also, which is nice. I will say he doesn't really benefit from the tentacle thing with teammates because he can just combo off his OTGs anyway with stance L, you know. And that's not too relevant, but it is, I guess, worth mentioning with this comp. But yeah, those were the two that I wanted to highlight. And, you know, in the future, I'm sure there will be other champs that have good synergy with her and stuff that hasn't been discovered as of yet. I know, you know, Echo Illaoi can also do some cool stuff, but I'm not an expert on all the teams with Illaoi because I've been focusing mostly on just her. But yeah, that's that when it comes to team synergies. So yeah, that's kind of what I've got with Illaoi, her combos, her neutral, her setups, etc. She's a really, really cool character, a lot of fun to play, and I think that she's a great addition and well done. So it's time to come across as perhaps a little bit doomed. And I'm going to put a big asterisk here. Please don't forget this when I'm saying the rest of what I have to say in this section. The devs may know, and in fact do know, much more than I do, right? Maybe this character has a lot of stuff that we just haven't seen and we're not really aware of, and she's a lot stronger than we may predominantly think right now. But being honest, that applies to every character. This room is incredibly complex. The amount of room for optimization and setup finding there is wild, and it's hard for me to envision a world where she gets pushed to such a far point beyond where what she is right now and where other characters can't reach, that she bridges the current gap between the other characters as I see right now. So what are her biggest issues, right, that I think need to be tuned? Her normals are terrible. They are so bad, right? I understand that, you know, some of these are disjointed, and sure, that's nice, but it's hard to press disjointed normals when you're, you know, a third to half the mobility of characters that you're playing against, Yasuo, Echo, Ari, etc. And when your, you know, buttons are also tiny, like it doesn't really matter that they're disjointed because you're never pressing them in neutral, right? This kind of thing is the size of like some characters' jabs or medium, not to mention that it's 11 frame startup, right? That's a big problem with her. These buttons, they need some kind of buff, right? I think like buffing her movement would go a long way to help her medium. It's nice that this is forward advancing, but I also think like for some combo routes, it would be nice if this had just a little bit more range. Let me show an example. Right there. Now that route does work. Let me just show that. So yeah, that route does function, but it's like so inconsistent due to the size of that 5M. And it kind of, like, her movement and her buttons, not only do they make kind of playing with her really feel one note when you're in neutral because all you're using is like this, and this, it also just like ruins a lot of cool combo potential that she has and kind of majorly restricts her in some instances. And I understand that, you know, there needs to be weaknesses for a character that has very snowbally offense like this. but it feels a little bit excessive to me right now with like just how stubby and slow these buttons are. All of them, right? Not just some of them, like all of them. High total duration and stubbiness. She could use something that I think is a little better. And to that end, I think that this character deserves a sweep, because that leads me right into my next issue. She is absolutely horrendous against retreating guard. Absolutely terrible, right? And that's really bad because she can only tick throw off her 5L because she's too slow to run up after her 2L, and it's negative on block as well. Her 2L is negative, and it's a 9-frame button. So like, you're tick throwing off your 5L, retreating guard ruins your tick throw option. Okay, that's one thing, right? Another thing is like, okay, how can I call out retreating guard? 5L, 2L? Can work if I'm right in their face and I do absolutely 0 delay. But why would anyone do 0 delay retreating guard is the other thing. You do delay retreating guard. It's kind of the other thing. Also, Gatling straight into 2M can call this out, right? If the opponent does delay the retreating guard, which many of them are right now, this low is going to catch them, right? This 2S2. But guess what? Outside the corner, I've not been able to find like any conversions off of this thing. I don't like it's. The reward is non-existent for hitting them. Like, they're going back. In fact, it's actually bad to hit them with this if you're solo Illaoi, right? And you can't assist confirm it. Because you're going back to neutral, and she loses neutral against every character in the game except for no unbreakable Braum. I'm very confident in asserting that at this point. So kind of the issues with her normals affect everything in her game plan, from solo pressure to combo consistency to being able to play neutral in a fun and interactive way. And I think that it would go a long way for some of these to be looked at, or for her to have a sweep that she could maybe confirm into Rekka off of, you know, like characters with much more than her and much more dynamic offense, or offense that loses a lot less hard to retreating guard due to mobility or frame data differences or whatever. They have way better ways of playing around retreating guard, and they have sweeps as well. It's like, why does she have to RPS a punishable on block move in order to beat retreating guard, right? This is punishable always with super, pretty much. Like, always punishable. Even without super, it's going to be punishable sometimes. Even when you retreating guard it. Like, even if the opponent messed up and they retreating guarded on that move, you can still get punished sometimes, which I think is really frustrating with her, for sure. Now, I also think that she has some hurtbox issues, so you're really only playing neutral with this forward S1, which, you know, okay, it can be satisfying. But this thing's hurtbox is, like, gigantic and pretty extended as well. So what I would like to be changed to this move in particular, it's very strong already, so I can understand if they want to redistribute power elsewhere in her kit. That's fine, but if you want to keep this current direction of her at neutral and have her be competitively viable, this move needs to have a little bit better hurtbox retraction timing, or just be like disjointed on the latter half of it. That would help her a lot, I think. I would also like, you know, one other creative way they could have her able to play neutral a little more is if she could maybe angle this dive kick. That would be pretty cool. You know, and you can threaten cross-ups a little more ambiguously. Or if you could charge it, maybe, because you could, you know, play with the threat of anti-air baiting a little harder. And again, this is punishable on block, like hard punishable. So I think it would be an okay, you know, plus for it to have, given the amount of risk that you're taking with this, and given that you have to kind of close the gap anyway as Illaoi. Now, this is a minor thing, but I would like if her charge 3H, we'll say in this case, doesn't consume her tentacle launch in combos. So, you know, just to go over how that works, what I'm talking about, right? If you use one move that activates a tentacle in a combo, then you use another one, it forces a knockdown like this. But for whatever reason, her charge 3H counts as a move that consumes a tentacle. So for example, I'll put this down, and I'll launch him, and you can see he gets hard knocked down. I think that, like, this move has such a niche use that, and her other combos are already good enough anyway, therein relating more to the niche use aspect of it, that I would really like if you get rewarded for finding routes where this works. And for example, like, you know, I was in the mines doing just frame Rekka stuff. I would like, if I had a tentacle down, to be able to keep the combo going with my 2S1 there and be rewarded for hitting my execution, you know? And relatively minor thing, I would like if this just frame, in previous versions, it had like a blue glow to it and not just that sound effect. I would like that back. I would like some kind of bigger visual indicator if she gets this. Makes you feel like you're that guy. Easier for both players to tell what's going on in the moment, especially in tournament settings where there isn't audio. I would like that a lot. I would also like if it deals more damage, because, like, I've really been trying hard to find routes where it rewards me for going into Rekka, right? That was a medium starter with just frame. And that was a medium starter without just frame, and it did more damage, right? And that's a little frustrating. I'm sure there's ways to optimize the combo, whatever. I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so hard to find combos that make it worthwhile to use the Rekka, and it's hard. I'm trying so hard to find something. But yeah, I would like if the just frame Rekka did a little bit more damage on hit. I'd appreciate that. Another thing I'd like gone was that combo inconsistency you saw there, where like I started comboing into JS2, but it just dropped midway through. I would like if JS2 were a little more consistent that way. That would be nice. That kind of drop does not really happen with other characters very much. And then I'm not sure how much can be done about this in particular, but the buffer timings on these supers is really, really hard to tell. It's quite hard to tell when you can start buffering something, because like her full recovery animation is her going back to neutral quite before she's actionable. And it's pretty important because that's plus 31, and the half charge of this is like, I think 34 frames exactly if you do it right, and you want to be safe to 5 frames, and it would be nice if you could get that out there a little more consistency, but I just find that you really can't, because you can't tell when you can actually start charging. And it's kind of the same off this move. It's so hard to tell like when you're actionable after this move, and so maybe like a little bit more visual indication would be nice, like the timing of her glowing versus when she starts being actionable, whatever, something along those lines. I would like to see that addressed as well. And lastly, having a 7 frame normal as your fastest with no other like leaderless defensive options is so rough as an immobile character with bad frame data, because what happens is you get put in the corner and you really can't interact with tick throws like at all, essentially, is how it works. Like the risk reward for you is so much worse than other characters, because even on tech you're at a spacing where you can't fight the other character at all, because all your buttons have worse frame data than pretty much every other character, and you're immobile as well. And also, even if you go back to neutral, you're in a losing neutral situation. So like you're taking way more risk for trying to attack tick throws, right? And the other thing is the way that like you interact with tick throws is basically gone with her, because even if you try to call it out with a mash, a lot of the time, especially on plus lights, which many faster characters can do on staggers, oh man, you just can't do anything about it at all. And fuzzy throw and fuzzy jump, obviously, in a game where you have rapid chaining, delayable lows that are plus on block, it's not really a thing quite as much. So that, I think, is too severe of a drawback for Illaoi to have, given that I don't think that her strengths are as overbearing compared to the strengths of some of the characters that are more well-rounded. Anyway, at this point. So I would really like to see her 5L maybe be like a unique strength of hers. The fact that it's plus and that she has a good throw game is already cool. They could maybe push further in that direction, or make her 2L a little better as well. You know, something along those lines. Like, God, the throw situation with her is just so doomed, which is part of what makes making 1v2 comebacks with her like feel impossible, which I don't think is the devs' intent. I think they want you to feel like you always have a chance to get back in the game. But with her, it's like getting in is so hard, and then her neutral is so kind of stubby and one-dimensional that when she blocks anything, you just strike throw her, essentially, with any other character. And she's put in a really terrible situation where her comeback potential is like severely limited after that. So I think that, yeah, that drawback is too significant at this point for her. So this should go without saying, but I'm not advocating for like solely strict buffs to the character, right? I want the character to reach a balance. So if you give her everything that I mentioned, she'd probably be a little bit overwhelming. So, you know, pick and choose what the best improvements would be. You know, take power away from some stuff, redistribute it elsewhere, give her new things, etc., etc. You know, the point is not to create a perfect character or like someone that is top tier necessarily. It's to create a more whole and functioning character that is just a little bit more varied, and I feel like some of these changes would accomplish that. Overall, though, I do just want to say that the character has some really neat strengths that I'm in love with, and she's got some awesome setups. I think the devs did a great job with this champ, and she has a lot of potential to be fun and exciting and to find some cool setups in the future. So with that being said, that's all for this one. I appreciate anyone who listened this far, and please sub if you want to see Strive content, or in the future when 2XKO comes out, of course, more of that as well.